Keep your friends close and your enemies even closer.
This morning, a family looking for answers surrounding the death of North Carolina native Shanquella Robinson at a luxury resort during a vacation in Mexico. The FBI now investigating as a bombshell new development has emerged. Mexican authorities say the American tourist may have been alive and that a medical professional on site may have been working on the 25-year-old for 3 hours before police arrived on the scene. According to local Spanish language reports, one of the guests staying at the resort called for help around 2 p.m. upon arriving, informing medical professionals that she had, quote, drunk a lot of alcohol. A doctor reportedly said she was stable but dehydrated, suggesting she be treated at a hospital. The guests, however, insisted she stay in the villa. Law enforcement authorities not called until later, eventually declaring Robinson deceased just after 6 p.m. Those reports differing from an autopsy obtained by ABC News, listing that medical professionals arrived at the villa around 3 p.m., declaring her dead within 15 minutes, citing the Charlotte native died from a severe spinal cord injury and a dislocated neck.
We got our first dead body.
This morning, a new video surfacing showing Shanquella resting in a hammock at some point before the trip turned deadly. This on the heels of the now viral video, too violent to show, of a female roommate appearing to assault Shanquella. Over the weekend, the community gathering to lay the once vibrant businesswoman to rest. Justice can't come soon enough for the Robinson family.
And even with all this new information, no formal suspects have been declared in this case by either the police, the Attorney General's office here in Mexico. So a formal conclusion surrounding this death still seems very far away at this point.
Yeah,
Guys.
but many want to hear from those friends, especially after that video went viral.
What a colossal loss this is. Shanquella is her father's only child. I can't imagine the pain to lose a loved one like this. My heart, my thoughts, my prayers go out to Shanquella's family. Now, it's my understanding that Shanquella paid for most of or all of the cost of this trip. She's trying to honor what someone she thought was a friend, and this happens. Now, I have not allowed myself to look at all at the videos that are out there because I just can't handle that. I don't even want to see what this woman went through. From others' interpretations of those videos, it looks as though this was a complete setup. And I just have to say, if you are a friend, you don't record me getting killed, beat up, accosted, and not lift a finger to intervene. To me, that doesn't sound like a friend. So I tried to resist doing this. I don't like that. I'm not one to jump on news cycles, blah, 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 blah. But there's something to be learned in this situation. I'm going to let it play out in the courts. I'm going to try not to make any judgments at this time. But from the looks of what I'm seeing, this was so wrong. So wrong. And she's such a beautiful young lady. Oh, I can't, y'all. I can't. So let's move on here, because I want us trauma survivors, my fellow trauma survivors, to know how to spot a frenemy situation and how to back out of it. This whole thing about keep your friends close, your enemies closer, I don't think so. In some situations, yes, you have to deal with frenemies. Say you're in a work situation, but there are also ways to deal with that, and maybe I'll do a video down the line. Right now, the whole premise of this video is that if you don't have to keep a frenemy in your life, don't. Trauma survivors who have developed what we call a please me or a people-pleasing personality, then that person might wind up more susceptible to a frenemy situation because their focus is often outward. How can I make you like me? What can I do to impress you? And they will subjugate their own needs and their own desires to the people they're trying to please. A little bit down the line, I'm going to play a clip from Fumi de Saluvold, who was also almost in a situation similar to Shanquella's, and how she avoided that situation. She didn't see it coming. So anyway, let's get into this. I'm going to tell you how to spot a frenemy. A frenemy is defined as a person with whom one is friendly despite a fundamental dislike or rivalry. Or in other words, it's a person who combines the characteristics of a friend and an enemy. We've all seen it, but when we're trauma survivors, we tend to ignore what our gut feeling is telling us, or we'll ignore the warning signs. Now, some of the warning signs that you'll see will look like narcissistic tendencies and behaviors on the part of the frenemy. As I go through the next list, you're going to be able to identify some things that sound extremely narcissistic. Now, go to this video here for more information about narcissism. In fact, it's an entire playlist called The Narcissist Files, and familiarize yourself with that information. But let's move forward with some of the tendencies you'll see in a frenemy. Now, passive aggression is a type of behavior or personality characteristic that is characterized by indirect resistance to the demands of others, the needs of others, and an avoidance of direct confrontation, as in procrastinating, pouting, or misplacing important materials. What this looks like when you're dealing with a frenemy is that you'll notice a pattern. Okay, this has to be a pattern of individuals who seem agreeable on the surface, might express that agreement to something that you all might discuss doing, or someplace you might discuss going, or you just expressing what your needs are. But invariably, they'll either mess it up, claim to forget, or completely just not do whatever they said they would do. So you just want to look for this pattern with people, because I used to work with a girl indirectly who was passive aggressive, and it only took a couple of conversations with her to recognize that she held grudges, number one, and number two, that if her boss told her to do something, she would sit there and agree to do it, and she just wouldn't do it. Just wouldn't do it. Period. So, on a personal level, dealing with her, I understood to listen between the lines. Just keep this in mind as you deal with your so-called friendships, and understand that this is behavior that may be a warning sign, and you don't have to deal with it. Here's one for you. Every conversation returns to them. It's all about them. Them. Whether it's them accusing you of saying something you didn't do because their little feelings got hurt, or you're opening up to them about a challenge you're having on some level. And what do? They go to something that happened to them. It's them. You'll notice a pattern of, even if you're in a group of other friends and it's not just the two of you, it's all about them. So pay attention to that. Now, in any relationship, come on, y'all, whether you date or not, I mean, you don't want to spend the whole dadgum rest of your life with them talking over you and talking about themselves. That's just a sign that something's really wrong somewhere. And whether this is someone who is a frenemy or not, it's like just move on. Hold up, wait. There is another time that they're not just talking about themselves. It's when they're cutting you down. And this comes in the form of you have a great achievement and you notice that they've got something negative to say about it, or they're trying to downplay it, or trying to tell you about something they did that was supposed to be better than what you did. Or if you're in a group of friends and you notice that they're sitting over there sulking, or got a look on their face where it's like, so what? That's a sign for you. So one day you recognize that, wait a minute, this person is a heck of a drain. If I don't jump to their demands, they get upset. They get their feelings hurt, or they go into this tantrum about you don't care. But don't let it be you who needs some help, or need somebody to talk to, or need a shoulder to lean on. This person is never there for you. They'll either ghost you and not answer your phones and your texts, or you'll notice that when the conversation comes around to you, they look like their eyes are glazing over and that you're just getting dead air. I met a guy through a former boyfriend, and we did some hanging out. They lived in another state, and we did some hanging out together as couples. So at some point, she broke up with him. And he never called me before. You have to look at my Flying Monkeys episode to get more on the dynamics behind this. But we talked for about a half an hour, 45 minutes. And I noticed that if it came around to me talking, this joker just dead air. I mean, I could feel it over the phone that he just checked out completely. Look for that pattern in your relationships with your friends. It's not good. Look for people who are intentionally sabotaging you, whether it's your plans or... I saw an episode of The Golden Girls once in which, Rose's sister came, and she didn't like her sister. There were multiple incidents of her sister making plans with Blanche and Dorothy, and there would inevitably be some kind of way that Rose was excluded. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you got the message. Oh, I thought you said you weren't available. And none of the other girls could see it, but Rose knew that there was some kind of passive aggression behind it, where she'd always get left out. But nobody believed her. They said, you got a problem, Rose. We don't see a problem with this woman. Until the woman slept with Blanche's boyfriend and got caught red-handed. So just look out for situations where every time there's a miscommunication or something doesn't go quite right, look to see if there's one of your friends who's always in the middle of that, because they might be deliberately and passive-aggressively sabotaging you. Always beware when this person's in your ear all the time, either tearing down your boyfriend or tearing down your other friends. I've seen situations where a frenemy would tell the woman, you know, you could do better. I don't know why he's treating you like that, and yada, 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 and you need to leave him, yada, yada, yada. And then turn around, she breaks up with the boyfriend, and this sabotaging enemy is now going with him. So what's behind it? In my culture, they've got this saying, beware the dog that brings a bone. Because if he's bringing you a bone, he's taking something back about you to somebody else, so beware of that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because you guys already know. Never ignore your gut feelings. There's going to be something just nagging at you about something. And what we make the mistake of doing is, something nagging at me, but I can't figure out what it is. So I'll just wait till I figure out what it is. Don't wait till you figure out what it is. Either believe your gut or not. I'm off this soapbox. This clip contains a serious warning. And before we go into the final way to know your frenemy, please listen to this story. Do not skip this section.
I had this friend, and we were both models, both of us. I knew she wasn't that great when it came to personality. She was quiet. Opposites attract. I am of a much more colorful personality. To be honest, most of my auditions that I booked was because I was physically present and they loved my personality. And they said, well, she's a model, we'll take her. When it came to acting, the same thing. I quickly realized that when we went out, it was always me that got the attention. And I would dim myself down so that she could get her shine. It never really completely worked. I could always see that she had some kind of resentment. And I did the best that I could. I did the best that I could by her, but it was never enough. I would hide when I got auditions. I would hide if I did well for myself. I would hide all of these things from her. And so I found myself in a situation, and bless her heart, because God knows I loved her. What I did not know was that she really wanted to see me dead. But I got to find out after that her husband would even say, why can't you be like Fumi? Why can't you be stylish and dress up like Fumi? And that even fueled her hatred for me. To the point, and I don't know why he did it, we went for her wedding, and her husband at the wedding reception speech to her called my name. I mean, if you don't have hatred for somebody, I can see how you could have a reason to. And it came to a head. It came to a big blowout with 5 girls and me. And I was going to meet them. They had invited me to come and meet them. I got dressed. And I was ready. And as I was leaving, Ula said, don't go. You know, I tell you something about Ula. He's a lovely man. He's my best friend. He's my husband. He doesn't talk too much. He doesn't say too much. No, he doesn't. But he never liked these girls. And when he said, don't go, I looked at him. And I said, okay. I didn't call and cancel. I just didn't show up. 3 years later, a friend of mine got wind that they had set me up. And he said, which was crazy, he went to the meeting place where I was to show up at. They were dressed in jeans, boots, no makeup, hair pulled back. And he was in the background. And he said, I never showed up. I never showed up. He said they were going to. You've got to be careful. You've got to be careful. Envy and jealousy is real. And there are some girls who really feel they can't breathe because you're on this earth. Till this very day, I thank God for Ula, for saving my life. And I thank God. Watch your friends. When you are doing well, sometimes you got to leave those old friends. You got to leave that old bus and move on. Because there's a classic saying, you can't eat steak in front of a starving man. When they want so badly what you have and you acquired to them so easily, it breeds resentment. It breeds hatred until they see you down before they can see themselves up. That's how some people are.
Because she listened, it saved her life. When people who care about you tell you that there's a problem with somebody you think is a friend, you listen. Now, Fumi's husband, he didn't come out hair on fire, yelling and screaming. He didn't go through any theatrics. He said a simple, calm statement. 2 words. Don't go. She had every opportunity not to listen to that. But in wisdom, she listened to her husband. He wasn't in the habit of telling her that stuff. Told her he didn't like the friends. Look, if somebody tells you that you know and trust that they don't like somebody in your friend circle, listen up, because the life you save may be your own. Now, Fumi said this friend of hers that was setting her up, yes, her husband was wrong, but instead of hating Fumi, she should have just backed out of that marriage. There was something there that wasn't right in that marriage, even from the beginning. When your husband stands in front of everybody and compares you to somebody else, but it fueled hatred in her. But notice that 3 years later, a friend of Fumi's apparently had gotten wind of this plot, and he went to that place because I'm sure he was going to defend her, not to take videotape of them beating her down. So it's the tried and true friendships that you need to nurture. Another thing Fumi said was that she tried to dumb it down, knowing that this person felt intimidated by her. And she says she loved this person. I don't care how much you care about another individual. You have got to understand that if that's not reciprocated, if the person you love is so sick that they want to see you harmed or see you not make it, see you unsuccessful, then all the love in the world that you have for that person is not going to change a doggone thing. And we've got to quit being so altruistic about this stuff that we keep putting ourselves in a mess behind it. So if somebody comes to you and tells you that somebody that you've been feeling that you got tore up, some ain't sitting right with you in the first place, and even if you don't get that gut feeling about it, and you've observed some of the things I've said in this video today, then you need to cut your losses. And I'm serious, cut your losses. Because what's going to happen is if you call them on their behaviors, then what they're going to do is they're going to blow up at you. They're going to blow up. Generally, these people are not willing to own their own stuff. They're not going to be self-aware. They're not going to take personal responsibility. And everything's going to be your doggone fault. Cut your losses. I'm serious here, y'all. Shanquella is a prime example of loving somebody, which she was obviously acting out of love to go pay for this whole villa to celebrate somebody else's birthday. It wasn't even her birthday. Okay? And none of that mattered because it didn't change the hearts of the people who were actually her enemies. I'm telling you guys, this is some serious stuff. I'm serious about this. Please pay attention to the warning signs. Listen to people who love you. Don't ignore a gut feeling because you don't understand why you have it. Cut your losses, because even if it's not a frenemy danger situation, if it's just a matter of somebody begrudging you something, you don't need that. Come on. All of us are trauma survivors. Haven't we been through enough mess in our lives? Haven't we? Well, you get to choose. Choose your friends wisely. I'm Dr. Linda F. Williams, and always remember, your greatest power is realizing the truth of who you are. Be sure to know that truth. Thank you for joining me today on When Your Mind Becomes the Scene of the Crime podcast. Schedule your free breakthrough session now at lindafwilliams.com. That's lindafwilliams.com.